Hey, so I don't really have a good light right now. Light that I would usually use for these videos when I make a video at night is basically dead. It takes a long time to charge, so um haven't posted a video in a long time because I've been very busy, and when I haven't been busy, I've been very tired, and when I haven't been trying to sleep, I have been so hopped up on, I don't know, caffeine, sugar, something like that, that in order to get through all those hours, that I instead uh, just sort of lay around and try to keep my mind from racing. Because even though part of the reason why I haven't made a video for a while is because um, I've been so busy, another part of it is just for as much as I've had to think about, I really haven't had much to say. Um, there are a lot of aspects to our being um, that we are more or less locked into. And I'm a firm believer of not hitting your head against a brick wall till your head breaks. If you're really having that much trouble knocking down that wall, using your head is probably not a good choice. Um, and then at that point, you probably also need to be asking yourself why you're trying so hard to knock down the wall when there's a perfectly good door someplace else or some other way around it. Maybe we're trying to knock down a wall that just can't be knocked down by anything that we have um, at this point. And it's quite likely that as we progress further as a society, that we will actually find ourselves losing our access to those tools more and more and more as we become more and more plugged in, so to speak. So I don't really have a lot to comment on at this point. Um, One thing that I have been thinking about that relates directly to DDD that I do want to get um, recorded is the potential connection between DDD and asexual identity. Because, let's be honest, we're talking about someone who may have suffered an early childhood trauma that brought about their dissociative dependency, leading to their dissociative developmental disorder. We're talking about someone who may be in their 30s but may actually identify as, like I said, someone who's maybe a 25-year-old and a 5-year-old. Well, the 5-year-old shouldn't be expected to want to have sex, particularly. The 25-year-old might be expected of that, but at the same time, that 25-year-old is pretty much solely responsible for protecting the 5-year-old. So, um, could very well be that there are multiple people who associate themselves with being some degree of asexual, whether that be demisexual or any other form of asexual spectrum, um, simply because the age difference, the or the most accurate representation of that person's core personality's age is simply too young to acknowledge that aspect, or to at the very least acknowledge that aspect in an adult way. And as guardian to that core personality, the dissociative personality may possess some ability to entertain that aspect, but at the same time, um, by default, often would choose not to. This leads to aspects of demisexuality, which I have told people, as someone who identifies themselves as such. In my particular case, I would not say that it is that I am only attracted to those who I have a deep emotional connection to, but that I'm actually attracted to others, females exclusively, in that way, under very unique, under very specific circumstances. And one of the things that I found is that whether it's the DDD issue, or whether it is the asexual issue, or whatever the issue may be, most people out there are not able to conceptualize of a person that is so different. And I think, especially as a male, I encounter more resistance with this, as it is expected of males that they only care about one thing. They're only thinking about one thing, or whatever. The point is, we're not supposed to be unique. I believe that's a very common conception, especially a conception held by most females, as most males know this is not very accurate. They may or may not play into it, but they definitely know that's not true at all. Whether or not they decide to try to uphold that or not, we pretty much all know. However, there are a lot of women out there that don't really have a male friend. If they do have a male friend, then it's a different kind of dynamic, and it doesn't often reveal much to them of what they're missing, hence the word missing. I think it is really important that we do acknowledge those missing pieces in one another, and the only way to truly acknowledge those missing pieces is to stop trying to guess correctly what is going to impress that individual, or what is going to what kind of traits that person finds acceptable or unacceptable, likes or dislikes, and we actually start to ask those questions instead of making those assumptions. I really don't think that this is something that's going to change. Um, we are pretty much hardwired to um, we're pretty much hardwired to pursue what we are unfamiliar with in the most familiar ways possible. When we don't know what to do because those ways seem to have failed us, we then try to look to others to lead us, when in reality we're trying to get to know someone else. It's probably better that we actually talk to that someone else instead of talking to other people in order to try to understand them. But I think a lot of this comes down to um, fear of um, becoming closer with someone than we would like to become with them in a shorter amount of time than what we're comfortable with. It's basically a defense mechanism. If we don't get to know them that well, that quickly, and we get to know them a little bit more over a long enough period of time, then we don't find the differences between our conceptions of that individual and the way that that individual actually chooses to represent themselves and or changes over time to be as abrasive as our idealistic view of that person and or a group of people. We had chosen to pursue that relationship or investigate that relationship in order to facilitate such connection. And it's it's really weird how mainstream this approach has become, considering the overwhelmingly dysfunctional aspects of such a path. But there is a huge discrepancy between the way that people get to know one another and the way that they are advised to get to know one another. There's a huge discrepancy between the way you're supposed to um, deal with uh, turning away or rejecting someone and the way that people actually do it. There's a huge, huge chasm between what we know to be healthy and what we do, what we choose to do, what we see others do, um, and choose to get our advice from as a result. And so I really don't see a lot of these things changing. Um, this is sort of me rambling a little bit more rather than posting a very poignant video on a particular topic. Um, but I think this is an important aspect for me to record and place within my article, because DDD is an issue most people are probably not going to be able to wrap their heads around, no matter how you try to spell it out for them. It's a more or less it's a foreign concept, that a 30-year-old could be a 5-year-old or whatever. It's just not something most people are going to be able to relate to. And so people with DDD are very, very likely to experience multiple symptoms as a result of this being so unable to accurately express oneself, or being either disregarded in pro or anti-socialization way, or even struggling with being interpreted in an alternate way than the way that they were intending to or have been trying to communicate, simply because of that discrepancy between what people can conceptualize and what people cannot by relation. So, all I can say here is that I hope one day we'll be better at doing this. I hope that one day we will be better. We will do a better job acknowledging one another and allowing each other to be unique individuals. But in the meantime, I actually attribute most of our social dysfunctions to our inability to make that adjustment. Anyway, that's it for this video. Kind of depressing and not particularly helpful. But like I said, I will be writing an article in the future, and this is actually fairly important for my writing this article. So I will let you go with that. Hopefully you all are having fairly wonderful lives. And I'll see you in the next video.